Greetings and welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a sometimes smart, trying to be funny podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. Go park on the moon. I'm your Captain Myrriah Gossett. With me on the view screen we have
your least favorite plot twist, Paul Sitachet. I'm sorry.
Clyde will be joining us in just a few moments. He is just finishing up an away mission. But tonight we are going to be talking about the 9th episode of season 4 of Lower Decks, The Inner Fight Part 1. Big warning, y'all. Lots of spoilers ahead. So make sure you have watched the episode before you listen and or watch this episode of the podcast. Because we are talking about The Inner Fight Part 1. That is a 2-part finale of our 4th season, directed by Brandon Williams, written by Mike McMahon. Let's just do a few reminders first. Paul, where should people share and find stuff about this podcast?
Well, Myrriah, thank you for pivoting to me. Listeners can subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. All links are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you love our content, and we hope you do, consider joining our Patreon for just $2 per episode at patreon.com/StarTrekPod.
Indeed. We've also been, we just released a special patrons only episode talking about a couple of older episodes of Trek, 90s classic Trek, that have some things to do with this season of Lower Decks. So if you want to hear us talk about those things, you should join our Patreon. And if you join the Patreon, you can also give us some messages from the menagerie. So that means even if you can't join us for the live stream, after you watch the episode, you can drop us a line, tell us what you thought about the episode, and we will read it here on the podcast. While we're waiting for Clyde, also, if you are joining us live, welcome. Hello. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We're excited to have you. And if you have questions for us that you want us to pay attention to, we know y'all love talking to each other in the chat. If you just type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital pod in the chat, that clues us in that we should pay attention over there. And we can see what y'all are talking about, or if you have questions or comments for us. And we want to know your spicy take. If you didn't get to drop a message in the menagerie and you want us to know what your initial thoughts, what your hot takes are of this episode, you got to type in HF, capital HF in the chat for, I think you know what time it is. It is time for some...
We should get one say message from the menagerie.
I should make one that says messages from the menagerie. Paul, do you want to read this first one? Our first message from the menagerie?
First message from Leslie. Great episode. Was nice to see progress with Mariner.
Indeed. And then we have Kieran who says, we finally got what we wanted to know about Mariner. Starfleet probably has lots of officers like her who are scarred by the Dominion War. It's good to know Thomas Riker survived the Cardassian prison camp. Paul.
And from Karen Chu, the inner fight was just a real treat for me. But my favorite scene was when Mariner and Mach, they have real chemistry, and I love that it was him who gave her the talk about her struggle and honor. I think it hits harder than if it came from one of the gang. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
We had some great Easter eggs like Gippers on the beach, and then Star Trek homage. I never saw the twist coming, not even after the Lost at the beginning. I thought we'd see him, but not that he would be the big bad. Tight script, entertaining. Might be my favorite episode since Weiju.
Weiju.
Which is one of my favorites, by the way.
It's a good episode. Yeah, I agree with all these things. I really like this episode. I thought the Mariner backstory was really compelling. I like that we have a little bit of a group split up. I'm hoping this means Rutherford has something kind of cool coming his way for how he gets back together with the gang here at the end. I think T'Lyn adds a really great comedic beats with the dry humor. And the twists, surprises, and Easter eggs in this episode were all jaw-droppingly good. And Mike McMahon did not disappoint me.
No, it's funny because Myrriah's staying with me for the weekend, and she had already seen the episode on the plane, and I came home at midnight, and I go, Myrriah, you want a churro and watch the Star Trek episode with me? And she goes, well, I already saw it. And I go, okay. And I'm about to leave, and then she goes, you know what? Maybe I'll watch it and give me that churro.
Yes, I mean the churro was enticing, but also knowing the twists and the surprises of this episode, I mostly just wanted to watch you watch this episode.
Yeah, no, and it was there. How many times did I stop it and I go, "Oh my god!"
Truly, you were just like, Santa! Like,
It was great.
yeah, it was such a beautifully weaved storytelling of like past Trek into Lower Decks. And it connected this crew to the original namesake of the Lower Decks episode of TNG, which I think is just like a
Sweet.
mastery of storytelling.
Mwah.
So sweet, delicious. Delicious. Let's take a look at the chat and see what's going on. Takako says, Hot Freak, I confess I did not have Nick Locorno on my bingo card. Tawny Newsom's performance with the Klingon was beautiful, but I felt like her connection with C2 came out of nowhere. Oh, interesting. I feel like they've kind of talked a lot about her history with like the Dominion War and some of her time at the Academy. And I think it does show that she's a little bit older than our other cadets as well, or our other now junior grade lieutenants. But I, yeah, I thought it worked out really well and tied a lot of nice, like, and sad, but nice bows on a lot of storylines. I was going to go to my notes, but it just says, whoa, 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 Cito. In case people aren't, one of the things I do like about Lower Decks is you don't have to know all of Trek lore to enjoy the episodes. But for those who might want to know, Paul, can you explain the backstory of C2 and how we know her?
Okay. So it starts off from an episode. I don't forget the name, but like it starts with Wesley Crusher at the Academy, and he just survived an aerial explosion. And basically, what turns out is Nick Locarno was the head of this like fighter squad, including Cito and Wesley. And basically, they were
the first duty, by the way.
Yeah, first duty. Yep. Okay, great. And like there was this training accident, and like one of their friends got killed. And then the whole episode is basically Wesley trying to cover up the fact that they were doing something that they weren't supposed to be doing. And at the end, like Wesley confesses because, like, he narcs on his friends. Can't be trusted. Like, Wesley Crusher, just shut up, Wesley. And basically Locarno gets expelled, and all the other surviving team members get held back a year, including Cito.
Which is how she meets Mariner.
I guess so, yeah. And so basically, Cito gets reassigned. Oh, and, Picard is a big factor in this. Like,
of course,
Picard basically goes like, "Hey, I know what you did. You got your chance to confess, Wesley." And Locarno goes like, "Picard doesn't know anything. Like he had speculation, like, and so you want me to go?" And Wesley's like, you want me to go against Picard? Anyway, he doesn't. In the next episode, Cito is on Picard's ship and the Lower Decks, and there's a discussion about who's getting promoted and blah blah blah. And ultimately, Picard, like, dresses her down, saying like, "I remember you. You suck." And I don't know how you got on my ship, and whatever. And this also, Cito and Worf had a really touching. Everyone should go see Lower Decks. Anyway. And so Cito goes to Picard after talking to Worf and goes like, "Dude, you could have said no, but I'm on your ship. If you're not going to give me a fair shot, like you got to transfer me off. I want to be in Starfleet." And then Picard goes like, "Oh, great. See, I was like dressing you down because I want to assign you to this mission that'll help, like, the Cardassian resistance, kind of blah blah blah."
Mm-hmm.
And they need a Bajoran. Cito is Bajoran, by the way. Not that I see race, but like, and so and then like it goes at the end where, like, she accepts the mission, and Picard goes like, I know why you're on the ship. I asked for you because everyone needs a second chance. And you're like, oh, and then boom, she gets killed.
Yeah. And the rest traumatizes
Yeah,
Mariner.
yeah, that's right. And so that's the story of Sito and Lacarna.
Yeah. It was a deep cut. I'm not gonna
It was
lie.
great. Like, yeah, I mean, I saw it from the very beginning. Like,
I mean, yeah, if you go back and you listen to our other episodes, you can constantly hear Paul telling us about how it's going to be Nick Locarno.
what's really funny is like every time like I try to say it, like remember when I was having the audio issues? They weren't audio issues. Like
It was
apparently,
really us having to cut
uh,
Paul's mic. He just had too much information.
and like no, well, I just guessed right because like I'm so like whatever future seeing alien race that is.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
yeah. But anyway, yes. But the Locarno twist was amazing. I like.
You're like a Beta Z on steroids with how
That's
much
right.
knowledge you had. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was crazy.
What did you think about I feel like I wanna get into some other parts of the episode, but I want to kind of dive in a little bit more on Mariner's, like, emotional arc because it has
Mhm.
been we've been 4 seasons of building this where we've gotten some glimpses of like her past with the Dominion War and time on Deep Space Nine, which I think, we all assumed that was part of this like trauma that she was sort of dealing with. But in reality, I think for me, the line that really I felt the most was her being like, I don't want to have to send my friends to die. Like, she's like, I can't be a captain that is willingly putting people in this kind of risk specifically for war. She's like, I understand there's risks to space travel
Sure.
and like exploration,
Mhm.
but she was just like, I don't want to be the one that has to like make these kinds of decisions for other people.
Yeah, I mean that's tough, right? Like like the problem, like what was the episode where Troy wants to be a bridge officer? Where they and she keeps on failing until like Riker gives her a clue.
Oh, I do vaguely remember this, but I cannot tell you what that episode was called.
Anyway, it was
Mhm.
the bow on that story arc was basically uh Troy had to be willing to send Jodie to die to save to repair the warp core, um, and she couldn't see that. She thought it was an engineering problem, but it wasn't an engineering problem. It was a command problem.
Mhm.
And then she had the same thing where she was like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. Like I don't know if choosing who lives or dies is not what she was wanting to do, and
Mhm.
definitely can see how Mariner would have that.
Yeah.
Thine own
Wait.
self. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. And Mariner could definitely have that because, like, for all of it, like, it's one thing to like risk your life, right? It's another thing to tell someone to go into certain death because Clyde Haynes is in the house.
Clyde Haynes. Pew 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 pew.
Yeah, we're like everyone is just capping on this episode, Clyde. Like they hate it.
Really?
I don't know what's going on here, but they hate it. Everyone hates it. Myrriah hates it. Am I the only person who likes this episode? Oh my god, I don't know what's happening.
Wow.
I'm
Nicole did not like this episode.
She's not into it. But Clyde, I do think your microphone input is not set to your microphone. Potentially. Anyway, what else was I going to say? But I think, I mean, I feel like I've seen a little bit of hate about the whole Mariner storyline and people not buying it. But I feel like she has kept a lot private. And it's also like 26-minute animated episodes. Like, we don't have these big backstory episodes every single time. Like, we just finally got a Tendi full backstory episode this time. And I think Mariner is our most complicated main character because she is our lead, so we have to do the long stroll to get there, I think.
like I would say, to that, I go, if people have a problem with like why is she being crazy and like risking herself, a death wish kind of thing, and connecting it to Sito, I can see how that connection is tenuous. Like I can see that. Like, why
Mhm.
so like normally the way she deals with this is a version of like I'm just gonna stay an ensign forever. That's how
Mhm.
that's how she's
Right. Then I
shirking off.
never have responsibility.
Yeah. And so, and she kind of wants, but now she's in a position where she can't quit Starfleet because she tried that and
Mhm.
she doesn't like that. and now people are seeing her as capable, and so they're not going to demote her. And so I could see how, I don't know if Death Wish is like, I'll say this: Star Trek never does a Death Wish really well. Like, B'Elanna had that Death Wish with the when she found out that her friends from the Maquis, all died basically. And I was like, nah, that's not my favorite Voyager episode. But in the end, she's trying to get to the point where comes to terms with the fact that she has to, basically crap or get off the pot, right? Like, you're going to get promoted and you're going to be put in this position, or you're going to have to drop out because no one's going to buy this. Like, I'm incompetent,
Yeah, forever. Clyde, what did you think about this episode now that you've joined us?
I thought it was really interesting, actually, for a number of reasons. And one, I went back and watched First Duty, the First Duty.
Good call.
It was what I thought about watching later. I just didn't have time. Was to go back and watch TNG Lower Decks, which I part of it was thinking that, wow, that I didn't see that connection. But seeing as the Lower Decks episode kind of almost gives us, I don't know, like you would think it would be connected to, a series called Lower Decks,
and it finally is. Like,
it finally is. Like,
I have said anyway. My admiration for Mike McMahon has, and that writers' room has increased. I didn't think it could increase more, but it did. I
think part of what's impressive is no one saw this coming. Like,
Paul has, we had to give away the fact that we have been muting Paul every time he correctly said who was in the secret spaceship. We had to keep the secret.
Yes. Sure. We said a lot of words. Nick Locarno.
It definitely came up multiple times.
That's right.
All of that. And I was talking to some people in the chat as an aside that, there's always been something like, there's a part of me that wants to like Tom Paris so much because he's the rebel, he's the fighter pilot, like he's kind of cool. He's literally to me, outside of like a 7 of 9, he's kind of the coolest guy on Voyager. But part of me has always wanted
Harry Kim.
Justice for Harry Kim.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Forever and Ensign Harry Kim. Yep.
That's right.
I would rather promote no. Anyway. But my thought was, man, there's always been something about Tom Paris that I just didn't quite sit with me, and now I know what it was. It's leftover Nick Locarno. That's what it's been. But I enjoyed this from a throwback TNG standpoint. I enjoyed this from really thinking like, man, this is interesting. And I did not see Cito. I had to go back and watch the episodes because I was like, man, this feels like a weird connection. I love how they did it, but I'm acting out because of Cito. I was like, let me go back and watch this. Overall, I thought it was I thought it was good. I don't know that it lives up to, man, the penultimate episode of the series is one of the greatest episodes all year. I don't know if it lived up to that hype, but I thought it was weaved together well. Yeah.
I think for me, it was an episode that surprised and delighted me. Like, to me, that was what I liked the most about this episode. I also enjoyed Mariner's little captain style speech to get everyone to kind of come together to be like, hey, like, we have to solve this problem and figure out what is going on. So I enjoyed kind of her arc in this episode from like realizing that she's being self-destructive for reasons that don't actually help anyone. And then she's like, right, I should be honoring her memory, not pushing the boundaries in this way. But I also like that she was still like, I still have to question Starfleet and I still need to push back on things. And like, she's not going to just like move on from it. Right. I also
the difference between like a flushing flushing the or throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? Like,
Right. Yeah, they know how to be like, oh, we have to keep Mariner at her core, but we can do these incremental movements and changes.
I also love the fact that, since day one, Mariner has had this interesting relationship with the Klingons that has never really been like dove into, right? Like she knows a bunch of Klingons, like she's like very comfortable around Klingons. So to have Maha like have this like breakthrough to her in a way that no one else has been able to. Not her friends, not her parents, not her, her commanding officer, like no one in the middle of a fight felt very Worf like. Like it felt very like here's this Klingon race that is supposed to be very warrior violent and just dropping like knowledge to the point where she has to hug him, which I thought was great. Hugging a Klingon, I was asking myself, how many times have I seen that before?
Like he was dropping knife bombs, like knife rain.
Literally, like knife rain, like just like wisdom falling from the sky and stabbing you right in the back.
Yep. That's right.
I wanted to get into how this was also a weird love letter to Star Wars, that other franchise, in so many ways.
Elaborate, please.
Oh, the entire planet that Freeman and Rutherford and everyone is on is just
Tatooine, basically.
Tatooine, like
with the Rogue One, like a shield and portal thing. So, like,
they pull up to the portal. It's got the portal shield around the whole planet, and then you have Billups as a bounty hunter
like
with a full face helmet,
in a very Naboo fighter-esque ship.
Yeah.
I was like, why does that ship seem? I'm trying to look back, and I was going through all of my Star Trek.
Yeah,
like
no,
history,
it's the other franchise.
I tried never to mix the two. That's why I couldn't place it. Yeah, I was like, okay. No, that's
as Takako says about the other franchise, a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
That's right.
I know you're talking about the way they describe the planet, but I think it's a funny way to talk about the other franchise.
I mean, the only thing that bar was missing was an alien band, right?
Like well, even like when Rutherford's like, "Oh my God, there's a green snake guy in the corner smoking like a weird pipe."
It was hilarious. It was hilarious. And what I really liked, what I liked a lot of things, but I like that Freeman won. Like,
Oh yeah, Freeman's been having a good back half of this season, just like constant smart victories, which are just like delicious to watch. The other scene that made me truly snort giggle was the Balak puppet.
Oh sure.
I was like, this is an insane reference, and I love it so much.
Yeah, no, it's really great where like you're seeing it and you go, I know what this is, and you go, psych.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, it's a puppet, and then they're like, oh no, we're gonna double down and be like, it's not a puppet.
Yeah,
even though you only know this figure as a puppet.
That's right.
Yeah. And the thing about that had me was my expectation was she'd pull it up and go, oh, it's not a puppet. But she kept shaking and she kept shaking. Like the joke was perfectly timed because it was just slightly past the point of comfort, like to that moment of uncomfortable, like, okay, why is she shaking this person? Please stop.
And then poor Rutherford, he has so many organs. Which is just a funny way to be like, that is flesh. That is not a puppet. That was a great joke. I did want to ask y'all if you thought, so there's a moment when T'Lyn realizes that her and Mariner were in the same battle against the Packlids. And it felt like it was a little too quick throwaway that I'm like, I feel like this is going to come back in some way. What do y'all think about that?
Like for me, like I was going like, like here's this Vulcan,
Mhm.
and their Vulcan ship just saved a California class starship,
Mhm.
and she didn't consider what California class starship she was going on to. Like so T'Lyn, I didn't really buy that T'Lyn didn't make that connection yet. I can understand why.
So then here's my next question, because I'm glad you logically went there. Is T'Lyn sus?
Is she sus?
Does this make T'Lyn sus?
Oh,
I
that would
don't
be.
want it to be because I love T'Lyn, but it would be a real good twist.
Oh, like if Locarno got to Lynn first, because
Yeah.
like it looks like what he's doing is like some version of like lower decks rise up.
Yeah, because there's no Vulcans, if you notice, in the
Mhm.
groupings that have all been brought down.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope not, because I really like to
You
Lynn.
guys are making a lot of sense. I don't know in my heart if I can go there. I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but I don't want it to be true.
I don't want it to be
I
true
like
either, but I don't know. There's just it felt like an interesting moment to me that got pushed aside very quickly in the moment, and I
Mhm.
feel like it's going to come back in some way.
We'll see. We'll see. I really like to Lynn, but I like a straight man. You know,
Mhm.
I
yeah,
like a
agreed.
good straight man, and there's no straight man outside of T'Lyn. In
In this grouping, yeah.
yeah,
Right. So I don't know if you guys talked about this, but do you think Ceto is truly dead?
I mean, yes.
Okay.
Like
I mean,
What if Nick found a way to bring her back?
oh, that's not bad. That's not bad.
so
Because we love to
so
undead people in Star Trek.
so here's what I read. So originally when they wrote the Lower Decks episode,
Uh,
they basically brought in Ceto because they wanted a character that they could kill off,
yeah.
and they wanted to have meaning, right? Someone that you actually cared about, done well. And there was a lot of discussions because they thought about bringing her back, and Ron Moore was like, nope, nope, nope. It'll destroy what we've done in that episode, the power of that episode. Okay, well, now we're 30 years later. The question comes in: could they undead Ceto now, and would that be okay?
I mean, like you're postulating that like Cedo survived somehow, and
Mhm.
maybe Lacarna like he maybe saved her, because like
I'm not saying he
What if
saved her.
there's
I'm
like
saying
what if there's like a Gollum version of her? Like he transferred her, like
she
like
has the
Picard.
precious, right? She has the ring, the one ring, and and she can't truly die. Oh wait, no, sorry,
No,
I'm making franchises again.
yeah, no, like Picard is now. Like, what if it's a
Oh,
fully artificial
oh,
intelligence version of her?
like if I remember how it ended, like basically they're waiting for her to signal so they
Mhm.
can pick her up, and then all of a sudden they cross into the Cardassian border, scan something, and there's just debris, and that would have
yeah.
been her escape pod.
Yep. And
Okay.
they get a report that the escape pod was destroyed.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So there's never a body. There's
Uh-huh.
never truly confirmation. They wanted to leave the door cracked just enough. They killed her, but just enough because Star Trek does like to undead people or bring them
Uh,
back.
well,
I'm just looking at
uh-huh.
Locarno and Mariner, right?
Yeah, no, I
So
mean
they're
like
linked by this whole
Cedo, yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they bring back Ceto to finally give Mariner some closure or bring
Maybe Wesley
Locarno back.
Crusher comes in.
Please
Yeah.
no. Please no.
I don't mind Wesley Crusher.
I
Uh,
like Will
he's
Wheaton.
yeah, Will
I'm
Wheaton,
good
the
with I'm
Traveler
good with
popping in.
First of all, can I say that whole traveler thing never really sat well with me? Just felt a little awkward.
You know, we can see. I was just, like of all the other people who are connected in this situation that are legacy characters that could potentially pop up in this next episode. Although I would love to see animated Beverly Crusher. That would also bring me a lot of joy.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
it was interesting. Like
Agreed.
that there were the people they chose: Seven of Nine, Thomas Riker,
Mhm.
Peanut Hamper, Locarno.
Yeah, exactly. Um, what do you think then? Okay, so like these are some pretty wild
Yeah.
theories that we've come up here with, like reanimated C2 or, any of these Wesley Crusher reappearing. But what do you think Nick is actually up to? That he's like, rise up, lower decks, let's take out these captains and replace them with people. Like, what's the motivation you think here? Is it just chaos? Because that's what he said at the end. Like, we're getting ready to basically cause some trouble.
So on the rewatch of the first duty, he had everybody convinced. So Locarno had everybody convinced to, hey, just let's go with this lie, right? It's all going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Picard figured out what happened, right? Picard was the one who figured it out. And he tells Wesley, look, either you confess or I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. They got to the point where the council, the tribunal, whatever, has largely said, look, we think you're lying, but we can't prove it. So we're going to dismiss this. We're going to close this case. And they pretty much gavel it down. Like they're fairly in the clear. And Wesley confesses. And before that, he tells Locarno, hey, look, I want to confess. And he's like, no. And Locarno goes, he got to you, didn't he? Like Picard got to you. Now I'm thinking, of course he got to him. You do understand that this is his mother's boss, right? Like this is not just some dude. Like this is different. I think Locarno blames Picard, who is the quintessential TNG era captain, for his expulsion and his loss of everything. And this might be a way for him to get back at every captain like around. So I think he's saying, hey, you for the rebels, for the ones who feel like they can do it, I got you. And I'm going to support you in this.
Interesting. That is an interesting take, that he's like, screw the current captains. Like, we do know better than they do. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Do you think we'll get a Picard appearance next episode?
I
mean, Mike McMahon would love it, but I don't know.
That's interesting.
I don't know. Like the question is like, why are they stealing ships? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are they stealing ships? And the answer to that is like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that they weren't like just straight up destroying all the ships, right? Yeah. So they're stealing them and putting them somewhere, and then all the people who were on those ships on the planet. And those are the like lower deck members are on that planet, right? Like those are the people who seem to be left.
Or were they the captains?
I thought it was the captains and the lower, like, because the Klingon ship, he's like, they mutinied and they cowards left me here. And when they come back, he's like, I'm taking back my ship.
He was the lower I guess I got confused because we've met Maha before, because he was a lower deck Klingon that we've met earlier in the series.
In Weiji, whatever
Weiji. So I guess yeah, he is like a captain now. But no. Hang on, I looked up his page. I was like, he went from a lower decker to he was second in command, and then he just became in Shita he did become captain, or is he captain now? That's what I'm trying to figure out, is if he became captain in Weijjuj, or
that's what I remember.
Yes. Okay. Got it. Okay. Yes. So he went from captain back to captain. Okay. Or first in command, whatever. So many things. Cheapy Tom Paris is not like Nick Locarno. It is like a very funny, I do love that they play with that a lot in the series, of having like when people tell Tom Paris he looks a lot like Nick Locarno, and he's like, I get that a lot. I really hope we get the reverse next episode where someone's like, you look a lot like Tom Paris, and he's like, I get that a lot. It'd be great.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for next week. I am interested to see how this all wraps up. I am very interested in what Nick is up to and why he grabbed Mariner. And what he is thinking is going to happen by grabbing her in all of this. Any predictions?
I really got none. Like, I think what Clyde has pitched seems like the most grounded version of it, but like I'm really curious of what this secondary character has accomplished that like could pull off this like coup. And so like I assume that it's going to be fitting. I assume that it's going to work well because it's been done well so far. Probably Gorn wedding. It'll probably end up in a Gorn wedding.
I mean, a Gorn wedding. I was going to say, what if Peanut Hamper saves the day?
Well, I don't know how that can't be written. Like it like it has to be written that way.
That'd be interesting. I'd watch that.
She comes back in, saves the day. Badgie and Peanut Hamper save the day. We thought they were the villains all along.
Not Badgie, Goodgie.
Goodgie. That's true. We do have Goodgie in this universe.
Well, Badgie is now like a Q basically.
Yeah. Which could be really fun and wild to come back in for the finale.
Well, it'd be really funny if Rutherford like had the near-death experience, but instead of seeing the koala, sees Badgie.
Whoa! What if Badgie replaces the koala?
It's crazy. It's crazy. I have ascended, Father.
Hello. Oh, Keen has an interesting idea. Maybe we'll also see Hajar, the other disgraced member of the Nova Squadron. Yeah, that's true. There could be other Nova Squadron cameos in the future.
I like that.
That would be interesting.
Like
Clyde, any thoughts or predictions?
No, I think I'm out of predictions, but I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what happens next, and I want to know, where has Locarno been this whole time?
Yeah, what's he doing? What's he up to?
He's been in the Star Wars universe.
Where did he get that ship? Yes,
it's just been hanging.
Where did he get this Boba Fett ship from? Like, what's going on?
That's the other reference. What if he goes to parallel universes?
Does
he have a lightsaber? That's what I want to know.
Like, I feel like we had an episode where we're talking about the ship and he goes like, it looks like a face, like Boba Fett's ship. Like, did we say that?
Yeah, we did say that.
So like so I love it. Like Slave One is the ship, I do believe, in Boba Fett. But
yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, no, I will not be here next week, so I apologize. So imagine like the episode that you listened to, but like 24% crappier. Like
I did say, Paul, if you have the time, you can make us like a video reaction, and I'll make sure to play it for the group.
Oh yeah,
I could, like, but I'd probably give you the reaction of like, yeah, I saw that.
We'll see what predictions you get correct this time that I can edit and insert into old episodes. What?
That
doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you joined us live, thank you for listening. If you are listening to this in your favorite pod player, we so appreciate you. We will be back next week discussing the finale of Lower Decks. And then we'll probably get all back together, since we'll be missing Paul next week, to kind of discuss the whole season as a whole, the week following. So we still got content going. It's gonna be a good time.
Happy birthday, Nicole.
Happy
birthday to you.
We appreciate you.
Happy birthday, Nicole.
And if you guys have like ideas for like Patreon episodes, just let us know.
Yeah. Let us know.
We'll probably do more of those soon.
Yeah.
Tell us, because we do have a bit of a break between the end of Lower Decks and any other new Trek. This will be the longest gap we've had in a very long time, because the soonest
Thanks a lot, Strike.
Thanks, AMPT Studio Greedies.
That's what I meant. I mean,
like guys. Strike, get all the things you're worth.
Yes.
SAG is still on strike as of today, so we are continuing to support them and their efforts. You can make a donation to the Entertainment Community Fund. The link is down below. You can check that out. We also have merch. If you want to buy a little merch, there's a link down below as well. We got some funny shirts. And you can get it as a shirt, you can get it as a koozie, a mug, all kinds of stuff. All the options. What were you going to say, Paul?
I was going to say, like, you could donate to the fund at Star Trek Pod.
Oh no, we can't do that.
Like
I was like, I know we've also been affected by the strike, but we gotta keep all our production fam. Keep
but
everybody
also
going.
if you are looking, because we've got one more true kind of after show podcast. If you're looking to hang out, consider joining our Patreon. We did get together and watch First Duty this week, as well as Aquiel, which we had. It was basically like, masterpiece theater, where we got to talk about Geordi and, yell at the screen. So we're having a good time on the Slack channel. So consider joining our Patreon for just $2.
$2 an episode. It's a good time to join because we'll be making a lot of bonus content and not having a lot of episodes coming out. So really the best bang for your buck in the next few months as a patron.
Pretty much.
You
Get
can
in now while it's hot.
Get in now. You can subscribe, rate, and review on Apple and on Spotify. Visit StarTrekPod.co to find links to all of the things. You can also follow us currently on X for updates of when we are streaming. I know I'm going to get it together and get us some other social medias because that's a slow dumpster fire of death. We thank you all.
Dumpster fire of death.
That's what most social media is, at least. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you. We know the world is a dumpster fire, and we're glad that you joined us. So live long and prosper, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.